Okay, so we're going to talk about 3.5 Systems of Inequalities. You graph inequalities much like you graph equations. This is still your y-intercept and this is still your slope. There's just a few things we have to consider when we're done. So one is if we have either one of these, just like we have an open circle, well, we have a dotted line. Then if we have the or equal to part, that's going to be a solid line. And if it's y is greater than or greater than or equal to, we're going to shade above. If it's y is less than or equal to, we're going to shade below. Okay, so let's see what that looks like. So here, this is my y-intercept. I'm going to start at 2. My slope is -2, so I'm going to go down 2 over 1. And then I'm going to draw my line. Actually put it like that. Gosh, let's try again. There we go. Dotted line because it doesn't have the line underneath, doesn't have the or equal to part, so it can't be equal to that line. I have to leave it dotted. And then we have to think about this shading. So because it is greater than, y is greater than, the shading is above the line. So we come up here, I'm using blue. This is where the shading, this is where the shading is greater than. Then we're going to graph the second line. So let's use a different color. Make this one green. So this one I need to solve for y first, so I add the x to the other side, which gives me y is less than or equal to 1 plus x. We know this means our slope is 1 and our y-intercept is 1. So I'm going to start at 1, and then I'm going to go up 1 over 1. So up 1 over 1. And I'm going to draw a dotted line. So I'm going to go back up here and get my... But because I have the or equal to part, I actually want a solid line this time. Because the line underneath tells me it's a solid line. And then because this y is less than or equal to means the shading's below. So now I'm going to shade below. Oh. Okay, and the solution to the system is over here where the two shadings overlap. So right here in this section where the two colors overlap, that's our solution. So if we're testing to see if a point is a solution, it has to be in this shaded area or on a solid line touching the shaded area. Okay. So let's look at another example. Here we go. We got to think back to our horizontal and vertical lines. Neither one of these have the line underneath, so they're both going to be dotted lines. I'll use blue. I'm going to go ahead and go to my line tool. We need a dotted line. And it's y is greater than -1. Remember, y equals just a number is a horizontal line. So we're going to go to where y is -1. That's right here. But we're going to draw this line all the way across. Then because it's y is greater than that, we know that means the shading is above. So I'm going to shade above this line. Okay, and then we have the second one here. Let's do orange this time. And we have x is less than 0. Well, x equals just a number is a vertical line. And 0 would be right here, but I want my dotted line through 0. So here's my dotted line through 0. And then x is less than that. So this is a little harder because it's not above or below, but you have to think about where it would be positive or negative, bigger or smaller. And in this case, the smaller would be over here. This is where it's less than 0. And then once again, to be a solution, it has to be in this section here where the shading overlaps. So if I asked you if -2 was a solution, you'd tell me yes, because it's in that shaded area. But if I asked for something on this dotted line, you'd tell me no, it cannot be on a dotted line, even if it's touching the shaded area. It can be on a solid line touching the shading area, but not a dotted. So let's look at one more. Or I suppose two more. Here, this one's already solved for y. So I'm going to put a point at 2. That's my y-intercept. The slope is 1, so I'm going to go up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Because it doesn't have a line underneath, we know that it is a dotted line. So I'm going to draw a dotted line through these points. And then because y is less than, I know my shading is below. I'm going to shade down here the best I can. Okay, this one right here, however, we need to solve, so I come here. First thing, to get y by itself, I have to subtract 3x. So it gives me 4y is greater than or equal to 12 minus 3x. Then we're going to divide by 4. It gives me y is greater than or equal to 3 minus 3/4 x. So we know that means we start at 3, go up 1, 2, 3, and put a point. And then we go down 3 over 4. So down 3 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Gives me a second point. Because it does have the line underneath, I want a solid line. No, not the right one. I want a solid line. Okay, and then because when we were finished, we had y is greater than or equal to, our shading's going to be above. So remember, even with these, if you have to multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip your inequality sign. In this case, we did not have to do that, so we didn't flip. And y is greater than shows me my shading's above. And so the solutions are in this overlap here, this area right here. And on the solid line touching. So if I asked you 1, 2, 3, 1, if 3, 1 was the solution, you'd tell me yes because it's on the solid line. But if I asked you 1, 3, you would tell me no because that's on that dotted line. It has to be on the solid line or in touching the shaded region or in the shaded region where the shading overlaps. Okay, moving right along. Let's try another one. This one right here, the top equation has to be solved. I need to subtract 2x from both sides. So it gives me y is greater than 1 minus 2x. So I'm going to start at positive 1. And then I'm going to go down 2 over 1 for that negative 2. Because there is no or equal to part, there's no line underneath. We know that means a dotted line. So I'm going to put a dotted line through it. Oh, that one's solid. And then because it's greater than, the shading's above. And then I'm going to solve the second equation. So on the second equation, I need to subtract x, which gives me negative y is greater than or equal to negative 2 minus x divided by negative 1. And it gives me y is less than or equal to 2 plus x. Remember that I divided by a negative, so I flip my sign. I'm going to start at positive 2. And then I'm going to go up 1 over 1 for my slope. Because it has a line underneath, we want a solid line. So I'm going to draw a solid line. There we go. And because it's less than or equal to, we want the shading to be below. And our solutions are over here where the shading overlaps, or on the solid line touching the shading. And that is all there is to graphing a system of inequalities or determining if a point is a solution. Please let me know if I can help you in any way.